Hey everybody, Rachel here at RachelTheStamper.com. Today I'm going to show you how to make this really sweet little card. This card was inspired by Lonnie. I believe that's how you say her name. I apologize if it's wrong. Lonnie Stewart. She has a really nice Instagram account. So I saw something similar. She used a completely different stamp set, which I really loved, but I didn't have it, so I went with this one instead. This is Plentiful Plants. This is the stamp set. There's also a coordinating die. These used to come as a bundle, but you can still purchase them individually in the annual catalog. Great stamp set and die set. Actually had designer series paper, so this color scheme is totally outside of what this originally was designed as a matter of fact, I'll show you. This is a piece of the DSP that it used to be with, so it was like dark greens. So when we had just jade, beautiful colors, but still kind of changed it around a little bit. So the color scheme that we're using for this today is actually Pool Party, Coastal Cabana, Bermuda Bay, and then Starry Sky is kind of like the accent color. I'm going to tell you just a quick catch up here. I had this card almost 100% made, didn't cough at all, and my video stopped. So I'm going to skip a little bit of this and show you some of the stuff that I did. I will stamp some things, but I'm not going to completely reproduce the card, only because my luck I'll end up having a coughing fit. But one other thing I wanted to show you is these sequins that I used here just to add a little something. I originally had it plain and I thought it needed something. So these are sequins for everything, and these are actually on sale right now on the clearance rack. $4.80 for these, which is a huge deal if you ask me, because if you were into shaker cards, there's lots of different stuff that you could use. You could use it for New Year's, for Valentine's, St. Patrick's Day. You could use it for Christmas. Just the gold and all the other colors, really great, but they're also great if you want to add just a little pizzazz to the background. So they're definitely still in the clearance rack as of me filming this video. So what I'm also going to show you is when I did this card originally, I totally botched up this back vellum piece. So I ended up embossing it to hide the imperfections that I created when I had to rip it off of the card and reapply it. So I'm going to show you a trick that will basically make it a little bit easier for you to adhere your vellum and kind of hide the adhesive that you use on it. You can also do it a different way, but I'm going to show you the way I did it. So this is a very tone except for the black, and then we have a little bit of the Starry Sky for the sentiment, and then for this ribbon here, I also used Starry Sky for the inside of this card as well. So the basics of this card are 4 1/4 by 11 for the background, which is Pool Party, a piece of vellum that's 4 by 5 1/4. Then you have some layering pieces of Pool Party. This is 4 by 3. The white that's on top of it is 3 7/8 by 4 7/8. Nope, that's wrong. 3 7/8 by 2 7/8. And then I used a 2-inch circle punch for this black pot that they're sitting in. I just cut it in half. So I used the second one. I'll show you that in a moment. And then you're going to need some scraps for your plants, and then just a little slim piece of Pool Party here for your pendented tag sentiment. Ooh, that was a mouthful. Okay, so basically I'm going to show you what I did first for part of the stamping. So I originally, and man, I'm really bummed because I had some things went wrong and I was able to show you how to fix them, but c'est la vie, you got to do what you got to do, right? So what I originally did, and I'm going to show you, is I stamped the sentiments, and let's see, we had, not the sentiments, the plants. I stamped them. One of them was in Bermuda Bay, which this kind of is dark, so this is going to work to my advantage. And then one in Coastal Cabana. And I'm not going to die cut these, so I'm just stamping them on the same paper. But what I did, I'm going to close my Coastal Cabana, but I'm going to reuse my Bermuda Bay, so I'll show you in a minute. This was a little bit blotchy. So what I did is I took my Wink of Stella brush that's dead. It has no more wink in it, but you can still use it great as a paintbrush or a blending brush with a little bit of sparkle. And I went over it. And it kind of smooths it out. Now this is super dark, and this is exactly what happened the first time. So I'm kind of glad this happened this way. So what I did is I took my spoon. I know you've seen me use this before. And I pushed the ink over to one side. Just like so. Set this on the side for a minute. Then I'm going to re-ink into the part that I just smoothed it over and stamp. Now, this is a little bit more modelly, I would guess is the word to use. It's a little splotchy, but you can, again, even this out with your Wink of Stella brush. But it definitely is going to smooth out much nicer than this too dark version over here. So what I did is I recently had re-inked all of these ink pads, the Coastal Cabana, Bermuda Bay, and the Pool Party. But sometimes with this darker ink, it kind of settles. So you can see right now there's a line right here. This is darker and this is where I pushed it. So a nice thing to do, you can kind of smooth your ink into this with your very fancy spoon, which you can reuse, by the way. But also, instead of like wiping it off as you normally maybe would have in the past, and then you're losing your ink, you're kind of just pressing it to one side. Now what I'll do is I'll just wipe this off and I use it over again. And if you really want to clean it, you can spray it with a little Stampin' Mist and wipe it. It will come almost completely clean. I just reuse it over and over again. So that was the magic of that part. Now, the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to magically die cut these, okay? And then we're going to pretend this is the other side of our paper, and I'm going to show you what I did. So I had my little half circle cut out, and then I went in with Pool Party, and I just stamped my sentiment in a couple directions. It doesn't really matter that it's so specific because it's going to be very much backgroundy. Okay, I also die cut these pieces here, and what I ended up with were, let me move this, the magic of video and not having a coughing fit and crossing my fingers, as I had these in the background, and then I put these on with black mini dimensionals. Now I did still make a little goof here, so I'm actually going to show you what I did. On my original card, I actually put this way too high where the stem was completely sticking out of the plant. And I don't know about you, but I don't have any plants that levitate. So I end up having to patch in a piece. And I still didn't exactly get it right here. So I am going to use this piece that I have left over as a die cut. And I'm just going to fiddle this in here. So I'm going to take, let me put this cap on. I'm going to take my paper snips. And I'm going to just trim. And you could probably do like a one leaf, but I'm just going to use both of these. I'm going to trim that, and I'm going to kind of make this just a little bit smaller. And we're going to just stick this in here to cover up. So what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of ink. Oh, ink. You can see the ink there. I'm going to add a little bit of liquid glue to the back. And I'm going to kind of just nestle this in here to cover up my whoopsie. And I'm going to just hold it for a second. So I just took a plain black piece of cardstock and I cut it with my 2-inch circle punch, which I believe is retired, but I'm sure you still have a 2-inch circle punch somewhere, or you could use a die. I put a little bit of adhesive, and then I wrapped a piece of this really, really pretty Starry Sky. I believe this is a mesh metallic woven ribbon. I was close. I wrapped this around. You could do it too. If you don't like it, you could skip it. I think it's really pretty though, because once you tie it in with the sentiment, that also kind of brings it all together. So this is one for each of the in colors, which I think are really, really pretty. So again, I mounted this. This was 4 by 3. The white layer was 3 7/8 by 2 7/8. You just need scrap for your white leaves, depending on how many you do, and then a scrap piece for your black circle die or punch cut, whatever you want to do. So now I'm going to show you the part that I messed up earlier. So luckily I didn't get this filmed, so this is going to work out well. Still have to add our sentiment, but we have our base card here, which is Pool Party. And what I was going for this card was trying to keep the same tones but lighten it up. So I thought adding the vellum to it would be a really good idea. But the problem is with vellum, you can either do one of two things. You could put adhesive sheet on the back of this whole thing, which will hide it so you won't see the adhesive. Or another trick that I learned some time ago is you're going to take your liquid adhesive and you're going to put it onto the back of your vellum. Now you have to kind of use the same sponge for this or put it on the side. And you're going to spread your adhesive around with a sponge. And then you're going to pick this up. Oh, hopefully there's no jack hairs. There's one little jack hair stuck on there. And you're going to press this on. Ideally you want to do this in a pet-free zone, or even if you are Rachel, because I'm always shedding. Make sure you don't get any of your own hair stuck. And for the most part, if you center your adhesive, oops, that's just a little bit off crooked wise. I think I didn't put quite enough on there. That actually might work out to our advantage. Let's try this again. Let me put a little bit on here instead. And then I'm going to just spread this around. And you're going to cover up the center. And the only thing is with this, you do have to be a little bit quick. That looks a little better. And just give that a good press. And then aside from that, whatever that little ditzel is I got stuck down there, which we're going to just ignore. That looks fabulous. Okay, so we're going to adhere this piece on here. That's going to bother me, but I'm going to just have to let it go. I'll cover it up with a sequin. So it kind of could depend. You could either do it so it's plain. If you like the embossed, you could totally emboss it. Really just up to you. I'm going to add some liquid glue. I am going to be pretty generous with my liquid glue since I'm sticking this to vellum because it does adhere pretty quickly, but sometimes it can be a little wonky. So I'm just going to make sure I like where I have it. Stick that on. Holding it just for a moment to make sure that it's straight because it will move if you give it the chance. And you know what? I think that's the perfect spot for one of my sequins. So we'll just cover up that little whoopsie with a sequin. And I did not burnish my card. Let me do that. Here we go, so it stays nice and flat. So that looks good. So the only other thing I need to do is to add my sentiment. So I'm going to be using Starry Sky ink for that. And I have two different things. So I'm going to put one on the inside. On the outside, I wanted to do a little note. So that is actually a full sentiment here. I'm just inking up just the edge. You could either use some Post-it note tape or some washi tape, but I just kind of winged it. That looks good. And then I'm doing You Touched My Heart on the inside. Right there, just doing my best to center it. Perfect. All right, I'm going to put this away so I don't have a catastrophe. And then we're going to take our snips, picking up the end. It's a little off center, but that's okay. And let's see if I can trim this without it being too botched up. Probably could have used my bigger scissors, which I'm going to just go back and just do a little retrim on this. Good enough. And then you can add, I'm actually going to put a dimensional. You can see it's a little bit curvy, but you know what? It's a homemade card. They're not going to be perfect, but someone's going to be very grateful to get this card regardless. I just know it. I don't know if I told you all, but I made a whole bunch of ornaments, paper ornaments. And if you've never made them before, they're really, really simple. But I made a whole bunch of paper ornaments for the assisted living that's across from school. And I took them to the lady that works there, and she was so delighted. She said the residents will love to have them. So I actually went and made more, so they would have one for their room, and then they were going to hang a bunch of them around the place. So it was kind of great because it helped me get rid of a lot of my retired DSP, which I am feeling completely overwhelmed with, and made some people happy. So it was a nice Christmas, little Christmas present. It made me feel very happy to be in the Christmas spirit with that. All right, so last but not least, what we're going to do is I'm going to just add a few little, I'm going to definitely put a dot here. One there. I'm just going to put a few dots of glue. I'm going to have one more here, I feel like. That looks good. And I'm going to pick up a couple of these sequins. And while I put these on, I'm going to thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this card. If you have any questions about any of the products I used or how it was made or anything like that, please feel free to either shoot me an email at rachthestamper@gmail.com, or you can send me a message on YouTube here. You could leave me a comment. You could send me a message on my blog, rachthestamper.com. So many ways to get in touch with me. You can send me a message on Facebook. Although sometimes Facebook can be a little bit of a stinker and I don't get my messages as quickly. I want a different color on that one. So if you don't receive a message back from me from Facebook, please feel free to send me another message. Sometimes it sends me messages and sometimes I'll get them months later and I really feel terrible. I do reply still after that, but it's a little embarrassing that it took me, seems like it took me that long to answer you when probably I just honestly didn't get the message. These are great though because they do store super well also. And then you can just put them in a little box And for $4.60, you really can't beat that. So there you go. And I'm going to show you the other one, the one with the embossing. You can kind of choose which one you think is your favorite. And as a matter of fact, if you haven't already, leave me a comment here on the video and let me know which is your favorite. Do you like the one with the embossing or the one without? I also like the ribbon, but I think you could probably completely do without it if you don't have that as well. So thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't already, I would love for you to subscribe. If you hit the icon and turn on the notifications every time I make a new video or go live, you will get a notification from me. And if you have someone you think would like to see this video, please be sure to share it. There is a little share button. You can either copy the link, you can email it, you can share it to social media, all those things I totally appreciate. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day.